Hello everyone, and welcome to Debonair Cyber. My name is Devin, and in today's video we're going to be continuing down the intro to Red Team track in Hack the Box. In this video we're going to be going over the machine Writeup, and you can expect some CMS enumeration, SQL injection, and we'll wrap it up with some path hijacking. I hope you're ready for it. Let's get into it. Alright, and with all that, I think we are ready to get started here. We have our machine pulled up, Writeup, and we have our target IP address. We're just going to click to copy that, and we'll bring it into our virtual machine. First thing we need to do, though, is make sure that we have connectivity with the environment. So I'm going to change directory here into my Hack the Box and VPN. Sudo openvpn into my lab OpenVPN file. You can download your own from Hack the Box themselves. They have videos on how to set all that up. I'm going to enter that root password, and we can see confirmation here in the top right in Cali for our IP address, or internal IP address. Open a new tab here, and we will back out of this and make a new directory for this machine called Writeup. And in map, I'm using that P flag to specify multiple folders at the same time, and we'll move into those. And the first thing we need to do is kick off a quick in-map scan here. All ports, use a T flag to speed that up a little bit, and then we'll paste that IP in there, and we'll let that run. Alright, so we have that in-map scan back pretty quick, and we have two ports open here. So what I want to do is kick off another scan really quick and specify those two in particular, 22 and 80. We want to do some scripts, some service detection, and once again we'll use that IP in there. One more thing, we want to output this in all of its file formats so that we can have those for later. And we're going to call those Writeup. And those are going to save into the nmap folder here, and we're good to kick that one off. Alright, so it didn't take us too long for us to get that second nmap scan back, and we can see here a little bit more detail. We have OpenSSH version 9.2 P1. That might be interesting later on. We also see that we have this robots.txt one disallowed entry, Writeup. So if it's disallowed in the robots.txt, it makes me wonder why they want to disallow it. And that makes me want to actually go and see if we can see what's on that page. So we're just going to open this up in our web browser here. Okay, so as we can see on this page, we have this news not yet live. It does say we have EOR DOS protection script that is in place and watches for Apache 40x errors. So that means it's going to try to kick us off if we give it too many pages that we don't recognize, 404 errors, for instance, that kind of thing. So that means we don't really need to be trying to fuzz this too much. We don't want to get blacklisted. But we do have this robots.txt file, and we know that there's a disallowed entry. So we can just route there. We see this fun little image here, and we see this disallowed page here. So let's see what might be there. Alright, so we see this Writeup page. Homepage, why puffy blue Writeup. Talks about how doing some write-ups and stuff on some other pages that he's hacking. We can click around in here, see some fun stuff about some of the other boxes maybe. And this post is still a work in progress, so it doesn't look like we have much to work off of here. Pages are handcrafted with Vim. And one thing that you should probably do with every page that you come across here that you're trying to get easy access into is view the page source. We can see here that maybe we have some comments that are left out, this type of thing. Make this a little bit bigger. One thing in particular that we want to point out on this page here is that we can say this this generator content CMS made simple. I've never heard of this one, but we do have a copyright date of 2004 to 2019, and we know that most of the time this end date is the current year for a copyright. So we can kind of play around with this a little bit. CMS made simple. Maybe we can find some exploits, maybe 2019, throw that in there. And we see right off the bat this CVE 2019 issue discovered in CMS made simple. Cool. We have an exploit DB link. Let's see, for a SQL injection. So I think we can just go ahead and download this and give it a shot. We're going to back out of this nmap folder, and we can copy from our downloads that 46 something pi into our current working directory, and we can try to run this. So we can notice that when you try to run this script, it tells you specify an URL target, and you can see immediately, if you know anything about Python, that this is not correct syntax. Missing parentheses in call to print. So it's even asking, hey, did you mean parentheses around these? And you'll find throughout this script, in particular, the one off of exploit DB has a lot of these missing parentheses around these print statements. So what we can do to get this working is nano, and then we can go into that file and edit it. We don't want to play too much around with all these other options that are in here, but these print statements, every one of these is going to be incorrect as written and needs to have parentheses around each one. Alright, so after all that, once you get all of those print statements corrected, you can see that you'll come up with this specify URL target, example usage, all this stuff. So now we can see that it's asking for the URL of the target. So we can run that with the U option and HTTP and that IP 10.10.10.138 Writeup. And we can see that it'll begin enumerating this the SQL injection. So we're just going to let this run for a bit. Okay, so we let that exploit run for just a minute there, and we can see that we have a salt for a password. We have a new username, an email even, and a password hash, it looks like. And if we weren't sure what this could be, we could use hash ID on this. Realistically, this is coming back probably as an MD5. But another way that we can check this is with the hashcat example hashes page. I like using this to see which modes I need to use for hashcat. And in this case, we can see that we have two separate modes, well really three for MD5 right up at the top here. This is just your standard MD5, mode 0, and then we have mode 10 and 20, each for a password and salt. So what we want to do from here is copy this password hash, and we can just echo and paste that part in, separate with a colon, copy and paste in the salt, and then we can write that into a hash file. Then we can use hashcat with mode 20 on that password hash file that we just made and run it against the RockU text list. And hopefully we can actually crack this hash. Alright, didn't take us too long there. We see that this comes back to RayKJ9. And we know that, again, that is for the user JKR, as we saw in our tool before. So we can just echo JKR and paste that password in there and write that to jkr.creds. And we can cat that out, make sure we got it in there. And it looks like we have our user. So the very next thing we want to do is try to SSH into the machine. And we can just use those credentials that we just got, JKR at the machine IP. If you forget it, you can always go back, copy that, and paste it back in. Yes. And then we can copy that password, paste it in, and we're in. Very first thing I like to do when I land on a Linux box is see if I can run the ID command to see if we have any special group permissions, and in this case we have a ton of them. That's good to know. We'll keep that in mind. The very next thing I like to do is see if we can run sudo on this machine. This is interesting. Sudo not found. And finally, the last thing I want to do is run the netstat command. This is going to tell us that whether we have anything listening on the machine that we couldn't see before. We do see confirmed that we have a MySQL database running on the machine, 3306. This is the one that we enumerated with the exploit that we just ran. Other than that, though, we don't really have anything else interesting here. So at this point, with the information that we have available, it would be best for us to begin enumerating or begin researching the permissions on these groups that we have available to us. Okay, so here we are on the Debian documentation page, and we can see here that the staff group allows users to add local modifications to the system without needing root privileges. Note that executables in user local bin are in the path variable of any user, and they may override the executables in bin and user bin with the same name. So this is interesting because this means that we can write to both bin and user bin, meaning that we can possibly override some of those permissions in those files. So this means that if we can find something on the machine that root is running, then we may be able to hijack that path and escalate our privileges that way. So now we know we need to find a process that is running as root, but how do we do that? One way that we can do this is with a tool called pspy. We can monitor Linux processes without root permissions. So now that we're here, we can go to the releases page and download the pspy 32. And once again, we can move over here back into our own machine, and we can move that. And from here, we can move that binary that we just downloaded into our working directory. So we can move downloads and pspy 32 into our current working directory. Alright, and then we can actually make a HTTP server from here. We can see that we're serving on all ports on port 8, we're serving on all interfaces on port 8000. So now we can just wget HTTP our IP. In my case, it's 1412 and port 8000. and we want to get, what was the name of that file? pspy32. And that'll download. Okay, we can confirm that download with ls, and then once we actually do that, we need to change the permissions and give it the execution, and then we can actually run pspy. And we see that start up. So we let this run for a little bit, and we see some things going on here, SBN, Getty, all this other stuff. And then it goes kind of quiet for a while. But it does make me wonder, maybe there's some kind of on-logon script that is running that the root account is doing. We can actually stop doing this for right now. So what if we were to log in and see what happens then? So we can actually cat out these JKR creds once again. Make sure we copy that password. And then SSH JKR at 10.10.10.138. Copy that password in. And we see that we SSH in successfully. Let's go and check on our other tab here. Okay, immediately when we log in, we can see that this SHC executes as UID 0, that is as root. And we can see that it is running run parts as soon as we log in. Okay, so now that we know that this run parts binary is getting executed every time we log into the system, how do we exploit that? What we can do is create a malicious run parts binary in the path that we have write access to because of our staff privileges. We can write in user local binaries, and we can create a malicious script that will set the SUID on the bin bash binary. And then with the SUID set on the bin bash binary, we'll be able to escalate our privileges to root. So that one liner would look something like this: echo-e shebang bin bash, 2 new lines, so just like we're writing a script here, and then we would change the permissions to add the U and S to the bin bash binary, and then we would write that into user local bin run parts, again because we know that that run parts binary is getting executed every time we log into the system. Semicolon, and then we have to add the execution permission to that new run parts so that we know that it will execute from the user local bin directory. So we're going to copy this, and well, we can stop running that and paste that in here. Everything looks good. We'll run it, and then from there we can actually exit out. Make sure we have this password copied again. SSH into the machine, paste. So we can see here that our prompt looks a little bit different. What we can do is double check the permissions on the bin bash, and we can see here that the SUID is indeed set. So we can run that with the P flag to maintain the privileges, and we can see once again our prompt changes that we are running with the effective UID of root, meaning that we can change into cd root, and that we can access the root.txt. Okay, and I think that is just about going to wrap us up for today's video. But as a reminder, we went over some CMS enumeration. That led into a SQL injection vulnerability, and then finally into some path hijacking with the run parts binary. As always, if you're enjoying the content here, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you had fun. We'll see you in the next one.